What's up, gang? Welcome to Room and Board. My name is Chris George, and today we have another episode of Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single board game leaving Kickstarter, GameFound, and kickstartingwalletfound.com over the next week. The reason being is that a lot of games get most of their attention at the beginning of their life cycle and not so much at the end of it. Plus, with the intense amount of Kickstarter board games out there, with new ones always popping up, I find it nice to know that, okay, I just have to focus on deciding on these games this week and leave the rest for future Chris's problem. So with that, let's get into it. This is going to be a shorter episode because there aren't a lot of campaigns ending this week. If you tuned in last week, well, you can probably see why, since every campaign that ever existed finished last week, or tomorrow, because I try to give a little bit of breathing room in case you can't tune in Monday morning. And don't forget, you can always check out previous episodes because most of these campaigns will have late pledges that will carry on for months and months and months. So if you're searching for your next favorite game, don't be intimidated by the little date range. You still might find something that you like. So first up this week, we have Get to the Checkpoint, which is a solo tabletop adventure that I am devastated isn't Get to the Chopper. But you go through multiple checkpoints in the game, so okay, fine, it makes more sense. Fun fact, in Expendables 3, they had Arnold say, "Get to the chopper," but it got cut from the final version. Or at least that's what somebody who worked on the movie told me recently. So, how's that for a little name dropping to start the episode off right? Anyway, it's a dice rolling, push your luck. You have to get your team of heroes, of action stars, through 4 checkpoints, and always trying to beat your high score, and crush your enemies. See them driven before you. Hear the lamentations of the women. So on your turn, you roll all your dice. Like King of Tokyo, you can have up to 2 re-rolls, and each number allows you to do something different. But you can't re-roll any ones, which force you to have some sort of encounter. So there's always that risk of, I could roll to try to get the thing that I want, or I could stumble upon an enemy. And honestly, if I was a solo gamer, I would probably be pretty tempted. It's got great funny art, it's on Tabletopia, so everyone can try it for free. It's a decent price at 59 bucks Australian, which is about the same Canadian, so that's like 43 US. And what's also great about this campaign is that if you were interested in any of their other games, you can bundle them all in there. And while I don't know much about the other titles, I've heard of Silverwood Grove, but that could just be because it's the most recent. 5 games for 160 bucks? That's not too bad. Especially in their shipping section, which promises that they won't jack up the price on you, because they have a slightly different way of doing things than other people do. That's this Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. if you're interested. And if I had to say one thing about this game, I would say that pretty definitely it's not Tsutuma. Moving on. Next, we have Mainline Magazine, which isn't a game, it's a magazine, if you couldn't get that from the title. But it does contain games within it. It's a semi-annual subscription service, with the focus being 18xx games. It describes itself as a mixture of railroad-themed board gaming action and historical information to the train game community. And each issue will feature a theme that is reflected in the games inside it and also the historical information contained within. You'll get some additional maps, stuff for existing games. As long as you have those specific pieces, you can play those different modules. And I assume you probably will, if you're a fan of the genre. I don't know, but it would seem to make sense for them to pick kind of widely popular 18xx games rather than obscure ones, because their audience is more likely to have it. And this issue's theme is all around the Hiawathas. Nope, not the pre-colonial Native American leader and co-founder of the Iroquois clan, but the trains that originated in Chicago or Milwaukee or somewhere else. You can't blame me for not knowing where. Every time I Googled it, my computer would fall asleep. But I actually think this is a really cool idea for a magazine, especially if you're interested in the 18xx theme. Or perhaps exclusively if you're interested in the 18xx theme. Which, if you are, I can only assume it consumes you from within and makes this an instant buy. I think this is really, really neat. You get 4 new game modes in the magazine, all related to a different game. So even if you only had 3 of them, well, still might be interesting to you. I mean, this is certainly not for me. I am not the target audience, and yet I think it's so cool that I almost want it anyway. Almost. So that's Thursday, August 19th at 10 a.m. Now, you know how I said this was going to be the shortest video yet? That there weren't many games finishing this week? Well, hold on to your butts, because Joshua Mason just ruined that for all of us. This guy has been pumping out little card games, tiny card games, and even, you guessed it, some funny card games. I mean, I actually wouldn't classify most of these as funny card games, but more lightweight filler. But the best joke on the campaign is that you can spend $465 to get all 31 games this guy has made. But don't worry, there's only 10 new ones this time around. He's been doing Kickstarters pretty much every time he makes a new one, and always including his previous games in it, because why not? Some have funded, some have not, but he keeps pushing on. As a wise man once said, "Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strength." I'm not sure who said that. So in essence, these are 31 different little card games, but they're also kind of all the same. They're all 2 to 4 players. They can all be learned pretty quickly because they're based off of 1 or 2 mechanics, and they're all 70 cards exactly, which is such a strange feature to highlight, but he did. I mean, it's probably got something to do with printing. He knows he can print a game with 70 cards, or he's just the Rain Man of 70 card games. Not 71, not 69. He tried designing those, and he failed miserably. This is the sweet spot. If you're interested, that's 10:03 a.m. on Thursday. I mean, if you think one type of art is cool, that's probably reason enough to pick it over the other ones. I imagine they're all pretty similar. They feel similar. Even though the mechanics are different, they feel very similar in the sense that they're light. You're gonna play a card and someone else will play a card and you'll kind of see what happens. And I mean, it's funded, so he'll keep doing what he's doing, I'm sure. I'm actually very impressed that he's managed to pump out so many games, and even more impressed that people seem to still be interested in purchasing them. Now, next up, we have an expansion for the not-so-critically acclaimed Zorro the Dice game. But who gives a care about critics when you're already double your funding goal? Zorro is a game where 2 to 6 players compete to take up the mantle of Zorro, since he's Anthony Hopkins and his villain fighting days are almost at an end. I still would not want to meet Anthony Hopkins in a back alley, and I have heard that's where he has the casting for all of his movies, just to see if you're brave enough. Now, if you own Zorro, you probably already know if you want some sort of expansion. If you don't own Zorro, you absolutely do not need to, unless you really like rolling dice, because that's pretty much all this game is, if the title didn't give it away. You'll choose a heroic feat that you hope to accomplish, and then you'll roll your dice up to 3 times to see if you accomplish it. You can also get equipment to help you roll or mitigate those rolls, and then once you complete a heroic event at the same location twice, you get an extra dice from that event because you're more renowned in the land and, you know, people remember you. And you're more heroic and you've learned from those struggles. Now, the best part about this campaign, in my opinion, is the add-on, the Mask of Zorro, which is quite clever. It's just a shame that the game doesn't seem to really match this cleverness. But to be fair, it actually looks quite charming, the art, and I think it could be something that kids would really enjoy. From what I've read and briefly looked at some other reviews of it, that seems to be the highlight. Will you become the next great Zorro? You have until Friday at 1 p.m. to decide. Or will you fade into obscurity? It's like Zorro always says, "You're a choir boy compared to me. A choir boy!" I'm losing that accent. I never had it. Now, next up, we have a game that's struggling to fund, and I'm not sure why, considering I think this is probably one of the most thematic games I've ever seen. It's called Deckchairs on the Titanic. Because what better way to pass the time when you're facing almost certain death than to rearrange all the deck chairs on the ship and try to get the most tips for putting them in the right spot according to your customers / passengers. Plus, it incorporates a highly realistic iceberg in the middle of the deck chairs that can push your chairs out of the way. Oh, dang that pestering iceberg. What an annoyance that iceberg was. You know, what a mild inconvenience that pesky little iceberg was. It is certainly not "Ice to meet you." You can stop the iceberg from hurtling your chairs, though, if there's a person on them. Because as soon as there's a person on it, it's immovable. Nothing else can happen to it. And you certainly couldn't get an additional person on it. Although I think that's been trod on enough. It's just, why did you have to set this on the Titanic? Just the name recognition? Were you hoping that would sell more copies? Or maybe people don't want to play games that remind them of massive catastrophes. Of which, of course, I'm only referring to the loss of that big old diamond. I put the diamond in the coat. I put the coat on her! Rookie mistake. There is a really cool mechanic though, and that's every time the boat sways, you know, because it's sinking, all of your deck chairs are going to shift in that direction. Could you use your mystical futuristic knowledge of which way the boat is going to sway and shift and sink to possibly save lives? Probably, but it's better to keep getting tips, which you'll surely be able to spend when you hit dry land. And keep doing your menial job right up until the moment that you die. Hashtag working class the board game. Honestly, I think this is such a funny concept because I don't know if it's really meant to be. And somehow I don't think everyone might agree with me. It is a great price though, 44 bucks Canadian, cute little deck chair meeples. If you can get over the theme and enjoy abstract spatial games, this actually might be one to check out. So that finishes Friday at 6:59 p.m. Now also on Friday, and also not funding, we have Mixology. Although this is significantly further away from funding than Deckchairs, and realistically, this one, it ain't gonna happen. So this is my back it if you want that sweet dopamine hit without actually spending money choice of the week. Which is a shame because the first thing you see on the campaign page is a link to the Tabletopia so that everyone can try it out for free, and a rulebook. It's like it was made for me. It's an action selection card game for 2 to 5 players, 3 face down, and everybody goes in a clockwise order, resolving one at a time. Now, on their campaign page, they actually clarify some of these cards can be used every time, without fail, and some only the first player gets to do that ability. So very much along the lines of Broom Service, but in reverse. So little less interesting. Anyway, that's at 9:01 on Friday. If you're interested, again, most likely you're gonna still have to wait for the relaunch. Now next up we have a little game that just crossed its funding goal, and it's called Finderz Creeperz, which at first glance looks like a Monopoly board, and at second glance with the goal of the game to be the first person around said board. So like a racing game. My 2 favorite things. It's described as a family-friendly roll and move, designed to be the bridge for moving kids on from family games to games with a little bit more strategy. And that strategy comes from being able to choose who moves, because you roll a dice and you can divvy up that movement between your character and your little creeper. I was hopeful for this game based on the title alone, and it's pretty cheap if you think your kids would like it. I just think, why not teach your kids something better that isn't related to the dreaded roll and move mechanic? Although that can be fun. I mean, I still enjoy Spy Alley, and that's just a whole lot of nothing. But speaking of roll and move, why not go check out Cojito Design's video on roll and move, and on Monopoly for that matter, because I watched those recently and their series is actually really well made and very interesting, talking about mechanics and the history of developing some popular board games. And I really like the way they look at things. Now this one, Finderz Creeperz, yeah, it doesn't seem great to me, even as a family game. But there is a tier where you get this sweet little plushie, which might be cool to have your kid have the plushie and then the same as the character in the game. And maybe they'll want to play more games if they don't play games. I don't know. I don't think so. That's next Monday at 2 p.m. Now, next up, we have an expansion, the second expansion, in fact, for Excavation Earth, which is designed in part by David Turksey. Hope I'm getting that right. He's the designer of Anachrony. That's where I know him from. Now, if you don't own Excavation Earth, you obviously don't need this. If you're interested in just the base game, the only way to get it through this campaign is to also bundle it with this additional expansion, which again, it might not be the right call for you. I'm really shying away from that feeling of needing to buy expansions before I've ever played the base game. I don't really ever see a need to do so. And I say that having just bought all the expansions for Ankh, and I'm waiting on that to be delivered to me up in Canada. But I feel like that's a special case for me personally, because I love Rising Sun, and so I'm gonna get it. But as a general rule, I really don't think you need to get all the expansions and the base game before you've tried it out, unless the rulebook like really speaks to you and really like clicks in with you. That being said, this has made me realize that Excavation Earth does exist, which I didn't know before. And I think it's something that I personally might be into and makes me want to keep my eyes out for it. Now, you're an alien race that's excavating Earth, hence the title, and pulling out old relics from our past, because at this point Earth has long since been uninhabited, which tracks because we're pretty good at killing each other. It kind of reminds me of Thebes a little bit, if you've played it, but with a more Euro feeling and less push your luck, which I could be into. Basically, you have to travel around to different sites, grabbing up spoons and license plates and other trash to sell to the highest bidder and to put into museums. But only meeples of the same color as the artifacts will purchase them. And there's an order that must be filled first, and you can see which meeples are upcoming because you can see all who's coming down the line. And they're all waiting in line for those delicious little relics. But you can also push people out of the line from the back and shake up the market. So you're simultaneously doing that and adding things to your own gallery. And at the end, you're going to get credits for the specific exhibits you put into your gallery, and the person with the most credits wins. If you like those little multi-decisions, inner working, moving around Euro games, and you do want to go for the whole hog with everything, the expansions included, that's Tuesday the 24th at 4 p.m. Now the expansion just adds in a couple more alien races, an additional museum board. So nothing crazy, just it seems like a little bit more variability, which is great. As Arnold would say, snakes! Why did it have to be snakes? Now next up we have Almanac, the Crystal Peaks, where the game is not on a board, but in a game book. You're looking to become the most prosperous merchant over 6 rounds, and at the end of each round, you're going to go to a different location in the Almanac. So in that way, the game board is ever expanding and shifting, which I think is a really neat gimmick. It's got some great shipping prices, 12 bucks Canadian, probably the best shipping prices I've ever seen on Kickstarter, to be honest. And it's also compatible with all the other Almanac games in the series. But that's pretty much it. I wish I could talk about it more. I mean, the art looks cute, but that's the main conceit. Otherwise, it's just kind of your standard worker placement. I think that shifting of the game board is cool because a lot of your games are going to be different. But otherwise, it's just kind of your standard worker placement. That's Wednesday at 12 a.m. So next Tuesday, the 24th at night, that's your cutoff. If you're interested, check it out. And honestly, maybe the reason I didn't talk about Almanac that much is because I'm a little distracted because of the last game that we're covering this week. And I've saved it for last because I got lots of thoughts about it, because it's something that I was excited to look into. And so I've rearranged the order. Technically, this should come before Almanac because it is finishing at Tuesday, the 24th at 5 p.m. So it's not completely illogical to still keep it for last. And that is Masters of the Universe, Fields of Eternia by Come On Games. You missed it. No, it's not by Come On, it's by Archon Studios, and it's only available to some European countries. This is because of licensing. There's going to be 2 Masters of the Universe games. I'm sure you know this. If you don't, now you know. Come On's coming out with one September, October-ish. I think they have a date in September. Anyway, only available to some places in Europe, so sorry Estonia, you're out of luck. Screw you, Croatia, you're gonna have to grab it another way. See what I did there? But if you've got family in Germany, UK, France, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Netherlands, Denmark, Czech Games Republic, Poland, Austria, Switzerland, or teeny tiny Liechtenstein, congratulations, you can get it. You just get it shipped to someone who lives there. There's also ways to ship it to yourself using a variety of services. There's a lot of them. You can just Google them, find out what's the best one. But I take this method with a grain of salt, because not only are you paying for shipping once, you're paying for it twice. So you'd better be damn sure this is worth paying double the shipping and that you're still very excited to play this version. Because double the shipping feels absolutely bananas due to the ongoing shipping situation that we've gotten ourselves into. But I like that we've got the daily unlocks going. When they hit 800K, which they certainly will, they probably will have already hit that by the time this video comes out, it looks like everybody's gonna get this cool Castle Grayskull dice tower, which, depending on your level of fandom, might be worth the price of admission alone. But honestly, I don't care if you like Masters of the Universe or if the game is great, because this is just a hot mess of a campaign page. There are so many little things that make me mad. One is they don't have a link to the rulebook on the main campaign page, which is preposterous for a game of this size. They've got 5 buttons as you scroll through to help you purchase the game immediately before their attacks on your nostalgia wear off, but no big button to let me see how the game is played. At this point, it's unacceptable. There's no reason why you should be hiding that in update number 3, which they don't even mention in the FAQ. You'd think a frequent question might be, how do I play this game? Another thing that's driving me bonkers is they will not let you purchase one expansion. No, they've got 2 expansions. Could you get the one you're interested in? No, you gotta get both. Why? No reason. Do they still come in 2 boxes? Oh yeah, we just won't let you get them by themselves. In terms of add-ons, what they will let you get for 45 euros is an extra copy of the stretch goals, which for the life of me, I can't think of a reason why you'd want to do that or have those. It's currently just 14 figures, the 14 daily unlocks, and the Grayskull Dice Tower. Like, I guess you get the extra characters that you can control, but it's not like you're gonna ever want to double up on them. It seems like this only exists for the sole reason of board game speculation, for the reselling market, hoping that people will want to buy these extra stretch goals off of you for a higher price down the line. And when it feels like a campaign is encouraging you to do that and encouraging that sort of reseller mentality, I don't know, it doesn't feel great. And the only other add-on you can get, not the 2 expansions, is the 48-hour bonus. If you missed it, it's just an extra character. Orko? I don't know. He seems pretty popular. I don't really know Masters of the Universe, but he seems pretty popular, hence the 48-hour bonus. And at this point, all the different bonuses that we have on GameFound are getting a little out of hand. You get a bonus for following early. You get a bonus for 48-hour early bird. We've got bonuses for just backing, which are different than the stretch goals. But also, and the 48 hours has passed, so if you didn't get it, you don't have to worry about this thing. But also, they're not allowing people to pledge $1 in the 48 hours and get this add-on. You have to pledge 99 euros. And sure, your card isn't charged, but what really is the difference here? People aren't going to be getting this early bird bonus if they don't purchase the game. So all this is really just a shameless marketing tactic to make you feel like you've already paid for something so that you don't change your mind before they charge your card. While at the same time, they artificially inflate that initial funding number. In the case that some backers drop out down the line, people will be awed by the numbers that they saw early on. And even if you pledge the 99 and then you think, okay, I don't know if I have enough money, and you drop down to a €1 pledge and you're hoping to get it later, you don't get this early bird. Even if you jump back up to 99 within the campaign, no, it's gone, not for you. I think a better incentive, and one that GameFound should start implementing, is a bonus for backing while the campaign is active. Because we know you're going to be the pledge manager. We know there's going to be 3 more months of when we can decide if we want to buy the game or not. So sure, if you want to have this early bird goal and make it impactful towards the funding so that when people look it up later they can say, oh wow, that campaign was really successful, this game must be amazing, then make it campaign specific, because that is an early bird in the sense. You're pledging during the campaign, you're showing this boost of funds, you're not waiting to late pledge, so yeah, reward people for that, sure. I guarantee you that won't incite anyone into a blind rage, unlike this sort of behavior, which I've always never had a problem with early birds, but this one just feels so dirty by not letting people pledge €1. Like, I get that campaigns need to be noticed to succeed and that the early funding boost is incredibly important. That's literally why this whole crowdfunding countdown show exists, because all of the attention is focused at the beginning and none near the end. But penalizing people who maybe can't afford it or maybe have to drop their pledge but have been following this campaign with you and sharing their excitement just because they can't spend the money at that time, just Jesus. I haven't even talked about the game yet. And here I thought this week was going to be a shorter video. This could be a video in itself. It might as well be a 5 reasons you shouldn't back Masters of Eternia. Anyway, the game is a teamed area control, with both sides having unique powers with their 3 unique characters and a bunch of little army men. So it's like Zombicide in the sense that if you have less than 6 players, you'll just have people controlling more than one character. You're seeing which team can gather the most victory points, and whichever one does by the end of the game gets to shape Eternia however they will. Now, each team is also going to have a bunch of objective cards or victory cards that give you points based upon if you complete that primary objective, and then a bonus if you also get the secondary objective. But you can only play as many cards as there are heroes. So 3, because there's going to be 3 on either side. Unless there's an exception, maybe there'll be an exception down the road, which is why it's phrased this way. Now, the battle system, if whenever you and an opponent go into the same spot or you go into a space with the opponent, there will be a battle, and that's played with your team's deck, where you can play cards to modify your characters who are involved in the battle, their attack values and their defense values, and boot the other players off the board or back to their home base so that you can claim those strategic areas that you need for your objectives or to get points. What I do like is that there are going to be these bosses on the board that if they're not defeated, both teams lose. So I think that idea of having an ever-present third faction on the board is a really cool idea and makes it less of a zero-sum game, for example. You need to figure out, okay, are your opponents going to take care of them, or are you going to take care of them, and can you divest your force, and will that leave you open to an attack? I think that's fun. Anyway, the campaign aside, the game doesn't look that bad. It looks pretty decent. If you're interested and you think you're going to prefer it over CMON's version, you live in the EU or in those countries listed, or you know somebody there, you have until Tuesday at 5 p.m. to decide. If you're choosing where to ship it to, pick Poland, because it's only €4 to ship to Poland. And sorry, Almanac, you just got booted. This is the cheapest shipping I've ever seen, other than local pickup options. So if you're in Poland, hey, you got that going for you. Honestly, the campaign makes me so mad that any enthusiasm that I felt for this game, and I think it's pretty neat. There are plenty of other games that can fill this void for me, and there's no way it's even a consideration in my mind. I'd much rather consider pretty much anything I've said previous than this. I don't know. Am I overreacting? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if you think I'm overreacting. Anyway, that's it. This week was supposed to be shorter. Friggin' Fields of Eternia. Another reason why I hate your stinking guts. But every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. So this week, well, honestly, the pickings are a little slim. So for my pick, the one that interests me the most, and I'm about as shocked as you are, absurdly, it's Deckchairs on the Titanic, which is horrendous that that's my pick of the week, but it's such an absurd premise, and I like absurd. It seems like a really neat spatial abstract, even with the unfortunate theme, and it's a really good price point. So that would be my pick for me. But let's be clear, this is also kind of me reaching for a pick, just to have one. But there is something here that piques my interest enough to highlight, or else I wouldn't say it. So moving on to my pick for you, and this is the second week that I'm gonna do this, but I'm not gonna recommend anything else. I'm not gonna recommend something just to recommend it. I mean, if you love solo experiences, I know there are some people who are excited about get to the checkpoint. But for me, I don't see any of them being like really a pick of the week. So instead, I'll talk about Deus Ex, because my brother-in-law just got a PS5 and I just got a PS4, and now I've gotten to play Mankind Divided, and I'm having a great time with it and really enjoy that video game series. So don't worry about board games this week, and treat yourself in some other way. Anyway, that's it for this week of Crowdfunding Countdown. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button. If you didn't, well, dislike it, I guess. What are you excited about? Is there anything here that interested you? Let me know. I'm excited to see a different perspective on it. Also, am I being too harsh on Masters of the Universe? Let me know about that too. Maybe it's just me, and maybe the game shouldn't suffer just because the marketing team seems scummy. Anyway, I hope that was somewhat entertaining. Hit the like button and any other button you see on the screen. No, don't do that. My name's Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but in the words of Maya Angelou, hasta la vista, baby. Bye.